Namaste and welcome. In our lecture this Wednesday, in the program Yoga for Unity and Wellbeing 100 Days towards the International Day of Yoga, we bring to you Dr. K.S. Balasubramaniam from Chennai, India. Dr. Balasubramaniam has done a double PhD in Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga. He follows the practice of Raja Yoga and meditation for decades now. His own research, his work, his discoveries align with his incredible knowledge in depth of classical yoga texts, makes him somebody who can speak to us on one of the most complex subjects, one of the most mysterious subjects of yoga, samadhi. What is samadhi? Many of us have heard of it, but do you think it's ever possible to experience a state like samadhi? What would you know about it? And if you did experience it, what would it entail? How do we approach a subject like this? From the idea of knowledge, exploring it from several different angles, let's listen to Dr. K.S. Balasubramaniam. He's been a disciple of the lineage of masters and gurus of the Heartfulness Sahaj Marg system of meditation, and today is the disciple of Daji. His talks with them, his experiences with them have been so extensive. Let us see what he's got to say about it. If you have any questions for him when he's finished with his lecture, please feel free to write to yogaforunity@heartfulness.org. We will make sure he gets them and answers you because he's so keen to spread and share his knowledge with all of us. He's also the director of the Kopuswamy Shastri Research Institute in Chennai, and he's traveled the world over to talk about yoga. He's one of the most known experts of yoga everywhere. Let's welcome him and let's listen to him. So namaste, so nice to have you with us on the Yoga for Unity and Wellbeing program. We have with us Dr. Kannan Balasubramaniam ji. Very happy to have him. He's joining us from Chennai, India. And today's topic, we will be exploring Samadhi. It's a very mysterious subject, and it is something that is fascinating millions of yoga enthusiasts who have been reading about Samadhi, hoping that one day not only does it become clearer, but we get a peep into this fascinating state or condition described by yoga. Fitting also that we are approaching the end of our journey of the 100 days of understanding, learning, and practicing yoga, and Samadhi as the final step of Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga comes towards the end of our explorations. We have with us Dr. Kannan Balasubramaniam ji. Our first question to you, sir. Can you explain to us and to all our viewers, especially those joining from every country in the world possible, what is the meaning of the word samadhi? And is samadhi the same as liberation or nirvana? Like when we hear that the Lord Buddha attained samadhi, what does it mean?
First of all, I would like to offer my salutations to Rabbi Daji Sahab and all of you for giving me this golden opportunity to talk on Samadhi. Let me tell you that there is a strong misconception or misunderstanding of the term Samadhi, not only for the common man, but even among learned or even among those who are students of yoga. Samadhi, as it has been said in the introduction, is the eighth or the last step in Patanjali's system of Ashtanga Yoga or yoga with 8 limbs. But it is not the ultimate as people have understood it. there is a lot of interpretation for the term samadhi. Let me give you some interpretations as they appear in ancient texts on yoga. Samadhi, etymologically, it is interpreted as samyak adhiyate yasmin, meaning on which, or on the object on which the mind is focused. Therefore, focusing the mind completely on an object is known as samadhi, as per the traditional view or the etymological view. But samadhi also means altogether a different one. Sama plus adi. Sama means complete balance or equilibrium. Adi, A-A-D-H-I, Adi in Sanskrit means mental disturbance. The mind having so many disturbances. Therefore, to make the mind, to bring the mind into a state of perfect balance and equilibrium as it existed before the creation of the entire universe took place, that is known as samadhi. You see the beauty of the term adi. Adi means, as I told you, mental disturbance, mental disease rather. So, the mind is always disturbed. It is not in a condition of rest or complete balance or equilibrium. Always something is going and coming in like the waves of the ocean. So, because of this mental disturbance, the body also gets disturbed. That is what the ancient system of yoga says. Therefore, the physical disturbance, which we call disease, dis-ease, is known in Sanskrit as vyadhi, V plus adi. When it is sama plus adi, samadhi, there is no disturbance of the mind. But when it is disturbed, V plus adi, physical disturbance, when the mind is disturbed, then you get headache, migraine, heart attack, BP, then stress, then sugar, whatnot. I mean, stomach pain, back pain, schizophrenia, all these things, mind can be the reason. Therefore, to bring the mind into a condition of balance and equilibrium, that is the purpose of the practice of yoga, and there are so many means. So, according to Revered Babuji Maharaj, the founder of Sri Ramchandra Mission, or the system of Sahajamarg or heartfulness system of yoga, he called it samadhi, sama plus adi, A-A-D-I, where adi means origin. So, before creation took place, the entire universe, everything was in a frozen condition, nothing was there, there was only pure balance, complete balance and equilibrium. When this balance was disturbed, so many things came into existence, what we call the evolutes in philosophy. The first cause is called Prakriti in yoga and Sankhya philosophy. Prakriti means the primordial or the primal cause of the entire creation of this universe. It consists of three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. When they are in equal proportion, complete balance, there is no creation. Even in our human body, human beings, when these three gunas, we call them sattva, rajas and tamas, they are in completely equal proportion. The mind is at rest. There is no activity. But when one predominates over the other, when sattva predominates over the other two, then what happens? I get noble thoughts. I become calm, peaceful, have compassion, love, like that. When rajas predominates, then I become virile, active, passionate. When tamas predominates over the other two, then I become sober, I become lazy, I become sleepy, I become insolent, like that. Therefore, these three gunas or the qualities have to be in perfect balance. This is called samadhi in the real sense. To bring the mind to the condition which existed prior to the state of creation of the entire universe, when there was nothing else, only purity was there, where there was no movement at all, complete balance and equilibrium. That is known as samadhi in the real sense. According to Darshana Upanishad, one of the later Upanishads dealing with the Ashtanga Yoga, samadhi is defined as the condition of balance or equilibrium, or treating every beings in this world as one, that is similar to me, that is finding balance or equilibrium with my own self and all the beings of this world. This is known as samadhi. Of course, in Upanishads also this has been described. Then coming to another ancient text on yoga called Yoga Yajnavalkya, samadhi is described as samatavastha, or complete balance between the individual soul and the supreme soul, that is the jiva and the Brahman, the individual and the God. Therefore, samadhi, samatavastha, it is a condition of equanimity between what? There should be two objects. Therefore, one is the individual self and the other is the supreme self. When there is no difference between these two, that is known as samadhi. Again, God or the base or the Brahman is completely balanced, complete equilibrium. Therefore, this is known as samadhi in ancient texts. But in Sahajamar, or according to Sahajamar or heartfulness, samadhi is slightly different. We shall see in due course. But coming to the question by dear sister Ekta about Buddha. Buddha, of course, in Buddhism, they use the word nirvana. Nirvana literally means extinguishing. So, like a wick being coming into extinguishing condition when the oil is not there and the fire is slowly being extinguished, that is known as nirvana. So they call it nirvana, mahanirvana, parinirvana, or mahaparinirvana for Lord Buddha. Everything meaning the same one. Generally, they call it as nirvana and not samadhi. But in the ordinary parlance, the common man believes samadhi means death. It is wrong. Even here, samadhi, there are, three levels. Samadhi means for a common man, it is death. There is something else which is known as jiva samadhi. Some of the saints like Raghavendra or others we might have seen in the films, they enter into jiva samadhi. That is, they sit in meditation, they have got still, the breathing is going on, a structure is being created over their body, or they are put into a box or a pit, then they are being covered, and then this is known as jiva samadhi. That is samadhi while they are alive. But in heartfulness, we are experiencing, everybody can experience this jiva samadhi, but one need not be a dead body. One can still be alive and perform all his activity. That is a great advantage in heartfulness. And one more level in the ordinary belief is sanjiva samadhi. That is, those of the saintly people who have been buried when they were alive, even after many years, if a person goes to that place, he can feel the vibration, he can feel some sound or nada, or he can feel the liveliness emanating out of that samadhi or the tomb or the place where they have been buried. This is known as Sanjeeva Samadhi. Therefore, samadhi for a common man is at a very low level, but philosophically it's a different level. But from Patanjali's method or Patanjali's system of yoga, samadhi is defined in a different way. But coming to heartfulness, samadhi is made practical to all the people. It is more an experience where by our meditation, even from the first day, we are able to experience complete balance and equilibrium. A taste, a glimpse of samadhi is being given by the master or the guide. So this is samadhi in a very short way that I am giving before you.
That is that's interesting, because when we understand the first few things that you explained, what is the word samadhi, what is the etymology, and you led us to understanding diverse ways of approaching this word. Of course, today one wonders, with the kind of life all of us live, is it possible to have such a state or to even have a glimpse of it? You said that in Sahaj Marg or heartfulness system, the master is able to make us experience this state of consciousness. Does it take intense practice, years of practice to achieve this? What is the practical approach to this, sir?
Okay. Let me approach it from a different perspective. Okay. According to Patanjali, let us say, the attainment of samadhi depends on every individual. It may be possible to attain the state of samadhi instantaneously, or in a day, or in a month, or many years. So it depends exclusively on the person. It depends on the attitude of the person, the sincerity of the person, and the intense longing or craving, as Rabbi Babuji Maharaj calls it. It depends on that. So Patanjali gives one sutra for it. Tivra samvedanam asannaha. Samadhi is readily before him who is having intense craving. This is the word Patanjali uses, of course, in Sanskrit. Tivra means intense. Samvega, to make it faster. So, intense craving for attaining the goal or samadhi means it is already before you. So, Babuji Maharaj also says the same thing. Now, this intense craving also Patanjali in the very next sutra gives 3 stages: Mrudu, Madhya and Adhimatra. So it depends on the soft or the mild approach, the middle approach, and the very longing or craving at its intense best or the utmost intense with which a person approaches the goal. Therefore, samadhi is possible even in a day or two, or even in the first sitting, as our master of heartfulness says. It is possible to have a glimpse of samadhi even in a single day, because it is backed by one great thing which is not given in Patanjali or in Vedic text. It is known as pranahuti, or the offering of the life force by the guide, either directly by him or through the preceptors, which makes the path smoother, safer, shorter, and also it makes one feel that within a very short time. So it is just like that. If I want to go to a place which is 200 kilometers away, I can walk I can take a cycle, I can go by car, or I can fly. The distance covered is the same, but the duration is comparatively lesser and lesser. This is what the transmission does. This is what the pranahuti does. Supposing I want to climb to the 8th floor, because Patanjali talks of 8 steps, so I am using 8th floor. If you walk along the staircase, it may take you 5 minutes. But if there is an elevator, if there is a lift, then it takes you within 1 minute. This is what pranahuti does. The distance covered is the same. You are in the 8th step, but what makes it easier, what makes it simpler, what makes it shorter, what makes it smoother is the pranahuti by a capable master. So this is the greatest difference between the samadhi of the traditional system and samadhi of heartfulness system, where everybody is qualified here. In the traditional system, somebody will say it is an essential factor that one must renounce the world and take to sannyasa or mendicant's life. You see so many people going or roaming around, or they are staying in forests, caves, mountains, or in a secluded place. But heartfulness does not advocate this. For God's sake, please don't believe if anybody says you have to renounce the world to attain samadhi. Our masters have told us it is not at all necessary. Being in the family life, doing all the work, your family life or your office work, you may be a teacher, a student, or an executive, an engineer, or a physician, you may be anything. But still, samadhi is at your doorstep waiting for you. I am not saying this, not only the masters of Sahajam are saying this, but even Hatha Yoga strangely mentions this. There are 2 texts I would mention here. One is, of course, it is very popular in many of the Hatha Yoga texts, something called Shambhavi Mudra, which is defined as Antarlaksham Bahirdrishtihi. So, keeping the goal inside and having the vision outside. That is, I am able to perceive the external world, but yet my goal, I am aware of my goal within me. Therefore, this is called Sahaja Samadhi. You need not renounce the world. You can still retain your goal within you, but yet you can see the entire world, you can perform all your activities. And then one text called Shiva Samhita, a very popular text, says, Gehe stitva putradara adiyuktaha, remaining in the house along with your wife and sons, you can practice Raja Yoga, you can attain Samadhi. This is what Hatha Yoga text says. Coming to Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Nahi sanyasana deva siddhim samadhi gacchati. O Arjuna, not by mere renunciation one will get success in spirituality. So what he says is, Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya. O Arjuna, perform all your activities remaining in a state of yoga. Yoga means samadhi, according to the grammatical interpretation as well as the interpretation by all the commentators who wrote commentaries on Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, where the first sutra starts with the term Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Yoga is there, where the term yoga is derived from the root Yudu Samadho, meaning yoga means samadhi. Samadhi, as I told you, complete balance and equilibrium. So Lord Krishna says, you can perform all your activities, whatever work you do, by remaining in a state of perfect balance and equilibrium. Therefore, one need not renounce this worldly life. And Lord Krishna makes another interesting statement. He says, if I remain idle, not performing any action, and then what happens? He says, many people take me as a role model and they will not do any work. They will say, Lord Krishna is idle, he is not doing any work, therefore I will also remain like that. I will give a beautiful incident that happened in the life of Swami Vivekananda. His guru was Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He gave him a taste of what is known as Nirvikalpa Samadhi, a high state, let us say, a Samadhi without any consciousness. And Swami Vivekananda lost consciousness, everything. So when Ramakrishna Paramahamsa aroused him and made him come out of that condition, Swami Vivekananda liked that condition so much, and he told his master, please give me that condition again. And Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa chided him, Chi, for this I created you. You have to be like a big banyan tree where all the birds will come, all the animals will come, and all the people will come to take rest, and they will be attracted by the flowers, fruits, shade, everything that the tree gives. Therefore, one should not be complacent, or one should not be content by attaining a state of samadhi. It should be dynamic. Samadhi should be dynamic. Sahaja samadhi. The samadhi where there is inner absorption and external awareness. This is known as Sahaja Samadhi in heartfulness. So the person may be in samadhi condition, but yet he will be doing all the activities. Therefore, Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, whether you are standing, sitting, sleeping, eating, going, or you are opening your eyes or closing your eyes, whatever you are doing, you should remain in that consciousness. This is known as the samadhi in all your activities. This is possible not only for Lord Krishna, because he has instructed to human beings, it is possible for all of us, and thanks to capable masters, it has been made possible for all of us also. Therefore, one can perform all the activities by remaining in a condition of perfect balance and equilibrium, which Lord Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Yuktahara Viharasya Yuktacheshtasya Karmasu Yuktasvapnavabodhasya Yogo Bhavati Dukkha. He tells Arjuna, for the one who is moderate in his eating habits, that is, one who does not eat at all or one who always eats, both should be avoided. And then one who is performing activities in a perfect balance and moderate way, that is, one should not be workaholic, always doing work like that, or one should not be idle, remaining peaceful, calm, and doing nothing. That is also prohibited according to Lord Krishna. One who is indulging in all the activities, it is also not correct. And one who is always sleeping, like we have the example of Kumbhakarna in Ramayana, or a person who does not sleep at all, always engaged in activities, working for 22 hours, 20 hours, 24 hours per day, that is also not correct. For a person who is in such a perfect balance and equilibrium, and one who does things like that, all his activities, Lord Krishna says, then yogo bhavati dukkha. For him, this yoga will eliminate all pains, all sufferings, all afflictions. So, if you want to make yoga to remove all your sufferings, that is the goal of Patanjali's yoga system. Patanjali says, before starting his Ashtanga yoga, why this is required? Patanjali says, Heyam Dukkham Anagatam. Whatever sufferings I have undergone, I cannot change. Whatever sufferings that I am undergoing now, I have to undergo. But future sufferings I can avoid. Therefore, how to avoid or come out of or stop the sufferings which is waiting for me? So he says, practice yoga. So Lord Krishna says, yoga removes all the sufferings, provided you perform all your activities in a state of samadhi or complete balance and equilibrium. And for this, everybody is eligible. There is no restriction of color, caste, creed, sex, nationality, religion, and heartfulness has made it possible for anybody who is willing to experience this, who wants to get evolution through the practice of yoga, heartfulness, the masters of heartfulness, all of us welcome such people. You can experience this. That is the great difference of the traditional systems of yoga and the modern yoga system of heartfulness, which is based on the traditional Raja Yoga system. So Samadhi is made available for all and sundry under the banner of heartfulness. This is what I want to express.
Wonderful, because I think there, not only did you express it, I think you made a real case for all of us who were wondering if this remains such a high and far away mystical attainment which one can only look up to or look at people like Swami Vivekananda. Suddenly the way you spoke and the way you experienced it and kind of explained it shows us that it is available to all of us. One thing that comes to mind, today we hear a lot of people trying to attain samadhi by different means. We hear of people taking certain herbs, getting into certain states induced by external practices which may be doubtful, some of them may be dangerous, some of them may be traditional. Yet, our question today to you is, what is the best means and ways to attain this state of samadhi according to somebody like you who's so well read and has himself had so much experience as a trainer, like you said, a preceptor of heartfulness meditation system?
Oh, this is a very useful question and a very nice question. Samadhi has been exalted as the final step in Patanjali's yoga system. And many steps have been prescribed by Patanjali. People generally say that the first 7 steps are necessary for attaining the 8th step, like it is a ladder. They give the picture of ladder, that you have to go from first to second, third, 4, 5, 6, 7 like that. Nowhere Patanjali has indicated that in his Yoga Sutra. He does not say you should go only from this or only from that, like that, So he just gives 8 limbs. So there is nothing which is called higher or lower, number 1. Number 2, Patanjali also gives some means to go into the condition of samadhi. And in Vedanta, they call it in a different way, and they also give some of the means as described by Patanjali. Let us see, and what the Hatha Yoga says, that also we can see, and we will touch upon what some modern people say about or prescribe as the means for getting into samadhi. And finally, we will come to the heartfulness way. Number 1, first of all, we should understand, as the master of heartfulness says, if the means are not right, the end will not be right. The Western slogan says, the end justifies the means. But our masters say, if the means are not right, the end will not be right. Therefore, if my end is to realize or reach the condition or state of samadhi, if I practice or take the means which are immoral, which are not correct, then the end will not also be right, will not be right. And Swami Vivekananda rightly said, many people enter into lunatic, they become mentally weak, aberrated, they become lunatic rather than yogis. This is what Swami Vivekananda said. Now, Patanjali himself prescribes some means. So, some of these I am not going to talk because he talks of so many things. I will give you only very few. Number 1 is Viveka. This is very important in Patanjali's system. Viveka means discrimination. What is good, what is not good. What is permanent, what is not permanent. What is suffering, what is real happiness. What is self, what is non-self. These things are called discriminative or discrimination or discriminative faculty. So this is very important according to Patanjali. Then he talks of Vairagya or non-attachment. Here, many of the Vedantins have taken this word Vairagya as renunciation. The difference between heartfulness and the traditional way of Vairagya is this. There, in the traditional system, Vairagya is forced, it is artificial, therefore it is not permanent. The greatest difference lies in the fact that in heartfulness, Vairagya is the result of the practice. It is the effect of the practice of meditation as advocated in heartfulness system of yoga. Therefore, the condition or the effect of the meditation remains with us permanently because we are doing meditation daily in the morning. So it rests with us. That is a sense of non-attachment. Renunciation means it is a little bit artificial and forceful, and also it is a state, there is a feeling of repulsion or aversion in it, whereas in non-attachment there is no such repulsion or aversion. It is natural. Therefore, Babuji Maharaj gives a difference between the traditional way and the Sahajamarg or the heartfulness way. Here it is the result or the effect, and it is natural, whereas in the traditional system it is forced upon, and therefore it is not permanent. And then Patanjali about practicing concentration or meditation on a single object, Eka Tatra Abhyasa, to make the mind rest on that. So you may have to practice. And then he talks about the practice on the japa or the repetition of the syllable Om, and to meditate over the meaning of the term Om, which nobody knows. So he goes on telling so many means. And one important thing also he makes a reference to it for making the mind calm and peaceful or equilibrium is pranayama. Pranayama is breath control or elongation of the life force. Prana means life or life force. Ayama means extending, extension. So by this practice, one can extend the life. I am not going into that aspect now because all the Hatha Yogic texts give so many varieties of pranayama. But the texts on yoga say by having a control or mastery over prana or your breathing pattern, your mind can be regulated. By regulating your mind, your breathing can be regulated. This prana and the mind, manas, they are both interrelated. They are connected like the water and the milk. One cannot separate the one from the other. Therefore, Yoga Vasishtha talks so much about this. Anyway, pranayama or the breath control or having a regulated breathing also makes the mind peaceful and calm. But here comes the beauty of the practice of meditation in heartfulness. When we are meditating, naturally the breathing slows down. You can observe that. A normal human being average of breathing is 15 times in a minute. But in deep meditation, you will find that our breathing automatically slows down. Therefore, the pranayama, for which Hatha Yoga prescribes so many techniques, naturally sets in our meditation in heartfulness. That is number one. But there is no risk as it takes place in the practice of pranayama. Texts like Hatha Yoga Pradipika and other texts say, if one practices the breathing techniques wrongly, you will get all the diseases. But if it is practiced correctly, the diseases will be eliminated. But there is always the risk of acquiring more diseases and also your brain getting affected if we practice in a wrong way. But in meditation, which is backed by the pranahuti or by the master's guidance in heartfulness, there is no such risk at all. So everybody is assured it is safe, it is secure, it is simple, it is short, and it is sure. So all these things are there in heartfulness. Therefore, Patanjali prescribes pranayama also. I will tell you another a very interesting thing. According to the Goraksha system of Hatha Yoga, pranayama makes it possible to enter into samadhi. So he says 12 pranayama makes into 1 pratyahara or self-withdrawal. 12 pratyahara makes into 1 dharana, the 6th step or concentration. 12 concentration, 12 dharana makes into 1 meditation or dhyana. 12 dhyanas make into 1 samadhi. Therefore, all these things, they are possible through pranayama alone. But the thing is, it is not permanent. It does not create a permanent impact in our heart, in our mind. And in the traditional system of Hatha Yoga, there is a text called Shiva Samhita, which says there is a particular herb or a particular set of herbs by consuming which a state of samadhi can be obtained. It is just like the modern people taking ganja or marijuana, whatever they call it, or the injection. There are some drugs which people take, and then something which they smoke, and then which they inhale, and they become intoxicated. They don't know what is happening around them. This many of the people interpret as samadhi, which is absolutely wrong, because these techniques make your mind heavier. So the difference is the meditation makes your mind, your heart lighter and fresher, whereas these type of gross practices makes your mind and your heart heavier, and the impact is the person is physically and mentally affected. Whereas in Sahajamar, these risks are totally avoided because it is being backed up by pranahuti, the transmission, the divine transmission, which is defined as utilization of the divine energy for the transformation of human being. What happens because of the transmission? Babuji Maharaj says, everything in that person gets regulated, bringing him into a state of perfect balance and equilibrium. You see, perfect balance and equilibrium. That is what the natural system of heartfulness, backed by the pranahuti from the master or the guide of the heartfulness, makes us into. So it is said, perpendicular is the shortest distance between two lines. So one is the supreme, another is the individual soul. The perpendicular or the Raja Yoga, backed by the transmission pranahuti, makes it the shortest, surest, safest and the simplest method than the traditional system of the means adopted by the traditional systems of yoga.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's move on to the next question now. Thank you so much. This was, to think of how a perpendicular system, the shortest possible way, and yet the most efficacious, the most efficient way, the way you described it, I would like to just remind our viewers that it's possible to meditate with a trainer of heartfulness very simply. Just get in touch, and everybody can go through it, like you said, again and again in an interview. One last question, if I may. Isn't it possible, like once we have attained a state of samadhi or experienced the state of sahaj samadhi, which I think you laid the most stress upon, does it become permanent, or is it something that one has to keep striving for?
Oh, a very good question. The thing is, in traditional yoga, Patanjali gives many varieties or many steps of samadhi. Okay, according to him, I would just talk about samadhi as per Patanjali and traditional school, and then come back to your question. Samadhi is of different levels according to Patanjali. Okay, what is samadhi according to Patanjali? So let me give you the definition of Patanjali's yoga system for samadhi. Tadeva arthamatra nirbhasam swarupa shunyamiva samadhi. So it is very difficult to understand. Tadeva, that itself. What is that? I will tell you. Arthamatra nirbhasam, where the object alone shines. What is that? The perceiver or the experiencer or the seer is not there. Only the object alone exists. And Swarupa Shunyamiva, the person loses himself in the object of meditation. That is known as Samadhi. This is according to Patanjali. But what does he mean by Tat? For that, we have to understand a little bit background. Patanjali's Yoga Sutra consists of 4 sections. The first section is Samadhi Pada, where he talks of Samadhi and Abhyas and other things. And in the second chapter or the second section, he gives 5 basic steps among the 8 ones. And according to the commentators, the 5 first steps are only preliminary, or they are gross levels of practice of yoga. And the final 3 steps, he starts the third section, the final 3 steps, he starts with these 3 steps, namely dharana, concentration, where it is defined as deshabandhaha chittasya dharana, keeping all or everything out of the purview. That is known as dharana or concentration. That is, only the object remains in my view, remaining things have been eliminated. That is concentration. And then comes the 7th step, dhyana or meditation, which means tatra pratyaya ekatanata dhyanam. There, ekatanata, only one thing, pratyaya, the content. So, holding your thought on a single object continuously, that is known as meditation. Meditation is not a very mystic or difficult thing to be done, thanks to heartfulness, which has made it possible that everybody can practice meditation. Unlike the traditional system where you have to undergo so many things before you are initiated into meditation, you are allowed to meditate. But here, on the first day itself, you can meditate and experience samadhi. So, holding the thought on a particular object over a period of time, that is meditation. But in that meditation itself, says Patanjali in the next or the third sutra of the third section called Vibhuti Pada, he says, when the object remains fever or the experiences loses himself in the object, that is samadhi. But is it the final goal? Because Patanjali rather gives many steps. He talks of Savikalpa Samadhi and Nirvikalpa Samadhi. He talks of Sabija Samadhi, Nirbija Samadhi. I will not confuse with all these technical terms. I will make it very simple in English. One is, the basic thing is Samadhi, or the focus or absorption as it is called, with consciousness. I am conscious, the object is also there. I am conscious of the object, therefore I am there, the object is also there. So this is Savikalpa. And Nirvikalpa is generally interpreted as Samadhi without consciousness. Without consciousness means without the consciousness of the experiencer or the object. You just remain. And many people have been duped. Many people have been deceived deliberately, because this is a condition where there is no thought. So people have misunderstood thoughtlessness, where there is no thought, to be samadhi. So it is there only for a few moments. This is not a permanent thing. This does not rest in you permanently. This does not give a permanent solution to our problem. Because Patanjali says all these stages lead one to Sabija Samadhi. Sabija means bija in Sanskrit means a seed. So long as the seed is there, he says the seed still remains. Even in Nirvikalpa, the seed still remains. So long as the seed is there, it has got the potency to germinate. Therefore, the seed will become a plant. It will grow into a tree having a trunk, branches, leaves and a lot of fruits from which so many seeds are produced. Like this, our life is also an example. I live this world, I do so many things, I acquire so many samskaras, or the impressions, they are being formed by each and every activity of mine, and then accordingly, consequently, I undergo so many births and deaths, what we call loosely as karma theory, but in heartfulness we call the theory of samskaras or the impressions. So in Sahajamar, we make a slight difference. Rabbi Babuji Maharaj calls it so wonderfully a condition called Dagda Bija. Dagda means fried. You know, if you fry a seed, the seed exists, but the potentiality or the potency to germinate is lost. It is removed. So the person will exist. He will not die. He will not cease to exist. All his faculties will work. He will be able to do all the work as usual. He will be able to see the world. He will have all the taste of the life. You can do whatever you want to do in your natural life that you lead in this world, to the extent of the life that has been assigned to you, 80 years or 100 years, but yet the potency to germinate into next life, that is successfully eliminated because it is known as Dagda Bija. That is what the cleaning done in this heartfulness is very important or significant. Therefore, this is not available in Patanjali's yoga system or any yoga system or in Vedic system. I can authoritatively say it is available only in heartfulness system of yoga. So this makes the seed inactive, but the seed, the person is lost, but the seed remains. So the person is able to do all the works in a condition of non-attachment, but yet he is able to perform all the works without forming any samskaras. Therefore, this is known as Sahaja Samadhi. As I told you before, it is the inner balance or the absorption, inner absorption and external awareness. I am aware of so many things happening around me, but yet I am also aware or absorbed within me. So the common example that is given in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna is Padma Patram Ivambasa, like the leaf of the lotus in the water. It floats in the water but does not get absorbed in the water. Therefore, a person belongs to this world, but he is not affected by anything that is happening around him. But yet, he is able to lead a life of perfect balance and equilibrium. And one more very significant aspect or the revolution given by Sahajamar is, what is the use of, whether it is Nirbija Samadhi or Samadhi without any seed, if the person after attaining it leads a life in a secluded place, in a cave or a forest or in the forest or in the mountain as it is portrayed in our literature, it is not useful to society. Nobody will be able to go up to the distance to have a darshan of that person. So, heartfulness makes it possible that a person living in this world, living with all his family, going to the office, performing all his activities, but yet attaining that condition. Therefore, he is able to help the society. That is more important. That is one of the greatest contributions of Sahajamar or the heartfulness system. Lord Krishna extolled this condition in Bhagavad Gita, saying that it is called Loka Sangraha. This condition of inner absorption, external awareness, namely Sahaja Samadhi, is not given for any individual to enjoy. Of course, you can enjoy, it is yours, but yet it should be made useful for the welfare of the society. Each one of us will have to contribute something to the society. By seeing us, by following us, people should come to us and we will be able to instill the condition of the samadhi in each and everyone, irrespective of any caste, color, creed, sex, nationality. Such a spiritual system existed thousands of years ago in India. In Vedic system, there was no restriction. So Sahajamar or heartfulness also brings out that revolution back again. This system gives you a taste of samadhi while you can lead the normal worldly life. I mean, not going or shunning this worldly life. Therefore,
That
this is one of the greatest contribution of heartfulness.
amazing. I think unfortunately, we have time only for this much. There is so much we'd like to hear from you about, because the various explanations that you gave have given us this motivation, this need, I would say, this inspiration to at least try for ourselves, right? See what it can do. Because it is in the practicality, it is in the experience of it that one shall discover, explore these wonderful things that you've spoken about, especially now, in times like this when everybody is disturbed, there is grief, there is pain. Now, this can be of immense help to people. So, not just individually, like you lastly said, right, but for the good of people, for the good of humanity, because we are one. And this is where we can play our role as householders, as people working in society, and yet able to scale the heights of spirituality. So thank you once again for being with us, Dr. Balasubramaniamji. Please, we welcome any of our viewers to talk to him. If you have any questions for him, please send them. And we do hope that we'll find you again for a few more questions, actually quite a few more. And thank you so much for being with us, sir. Thank you.